Reopening America, states like Tennessee, Mississippi, and Montana easing restrictions on stay-at-home orders, allowing businesses like salons, gyms, and restaurants to open as long as they follow the CDC guidelines. Georgia allowing certain businesses to reopen on Friday. Joining me right now is Georgia Congressman and House Judiciary Committee Ranking Member Doug Collins. Congressman, it's always great to see you. Thank you so much for joining me this morning.
Hey, good morning, Maria. How are you?
So what can you tell us about the reopening, Congressman? You did see some stores open on Friday in Georgia. How's it going? What's your take on reopening the country this week?
Well, so far down here in Georgia, I think it's been an interesting time because we reopened a little bit ahead of the CDC schedule. We reopened a little ahead of phase one, and that's been a little bit of an interesting time because of the communication issues. We still have a stay-at-home order that goes through April 30th down here. So opening up some businesses that in a selective fashion while still having a stay-at-home order, it just caused some confusion. We want everything to open back up. The president wants everything to open back up. The governor wants everything to open back up. We all want it, but we need to do so in a way where people feel safe, even if the restaurants or the business do open up, people are ready to come back to them.
So you want to make sure that those social distancing rules are in place, make sure that we're following all of the guidelines so that people can feel safer actually going out.
Exactly. And I think one of the issues that we had down here is the lack of local input. It was a statewide order, which is the governor's is right to do, but without local input, areas like in my area, which is seeing an increase right now in positive cases and increase in some hospitalizations. Hospitals are still able to handle it, but it's just different in different parts of the region. So I think you have to take that in case and step every time you look at this, because you can't just have a blanket approach, especially when you have hotspots that are still developing out there.
Do you think Georgia needs money? Do you think the states getting money in the next stimulus bill makes sense to you? How are you looking at the money for small business and what comes next?
The small business money is the things that is keeping most of our businesses afloat, making sure that the economy, when we are able to get back out, is going to be important. The state and locality money is something we also need to look at, and I think the president and the Secretary of Commission are open to that. We just need to make sure that it's done in a proportion and in a way that which actually affects the states, helps them, and not just maybe corrects old ills of things that are out there that they have had with. The states have been getting money. They have been getting a lot of money from the federal government for COVID response. Now we just need to make sure that as we go forward that everything is working both in the government sector and the private sector to make sure our economy is working.
All right, Congressman, let me switch gears, get your take from your position on the Judiciary Committee. It's going to be a critical week for General Michael Flynn. I tweeted this out yesterday. Breaking news. My sources tell me that he will be completely exonerated this week. Here's what Ranking Intel Committee member Devin Nunes said yesterday on Sunday Morning Futures about this. And then I want to get your take on the news behind Michael Flynn. Watch this. I know this upcoming week is going to be an important one for General Michael Flynn. What can you tell us?
In that FISA report, we need everything declassified so that we can continue this investigation. Why is General Flynn important? Because on Friday night, thankfully, Attorney General Barr has appointed a U.S. attorney out of Missouri to look into, what was going on in some of these investigations. And now we don't know what was submitted to the court on Friday evening. But we believe that it's possibly exculpatory evidence that the government had on General Flynn.
But what I do know, Congressman, is that those documents are exculpatory evidence. They were not shown to the court initially, and basically what they say are they are notes about Michael Flynn's meeting at the White House with the FBI, that it was a complete setup and that he never lied. It's all in Mr. Baker's notes. That's the exculpatory evidence. Do you believe that Michael Flynn will be exonerated this week? What do you know about this?
Well, this goes back to something you and I have been talking about for a long, long time, and it's about time that some of this comes out. And this is why when people hear us talk about the FISA court, when they hear us talk about the corrupt cabal of Comey, Strzok, Page, McCabe, all of them in that situation, they're understanding why this is important. That Brady evidence, that exculpatory evidence, is things that prosecutors must turn over. And what we found here is that when either you take Carter Page, Papadopoulos, now Flynn, and you start looking at this and putting the case together. Sidney Powell, the new attorney for General Flynn, has done a great job of pointing out the problems that we have seen. And what makes me think that this is even more important for maybe a possible dismissal or a major movement in this case is that when you're dealing with ineffective counsel assistance, which was his first attorney's and that is being looked into. And I even saw a report that they're actually looking at possibly interviewing those previous attorneys. That tells me that this case is moving forward, and U.S. Attorney Jensen, who has been appointed to look at this, is going to have plenty of evidence and plenty of ways to look and see if there was a problem with the interview. Remember, Peter Strzok did this interview. This was a time in which Comey knew that he had free reign because it was in the early stages of the transition, the president coming into office. This is nothing more than an unveiling and unpeeling that we've talked about, you and I have talked about many times before, of a corrupt cabal wanting to get candidate Trump and then President Trump. This is nothing more than confirmation of what we've seen before.
That's right. And we will see when this plays out. I understand it will play out this week, but the exculpatory evidence showing that it was, in fact, a trick to get him. You know, Jim Comey has spoken about this before, right, Congressman? Remember when Jim Comey was out on his book tour and he said something like, well, we knew that it was a chaotic administration and any other administration, it wouldn't fly. But with this, we just said, hey, Mike, we want to talk to you. Don't bring a lawyer. We'll send a couple of agents down there just to chat you up. And that's exactly what they did and cornered him. And then later, some of them said, no, I don't think he lied. But in fact, that's what they charged him with. You made a really good point to me when we spoke about this earlier. They initially charged him with collusion, colluding with the Russians. Yes. And yet they ended up bringing charges about him lying. So there was no collusion in the charge.
No, in fact, this is what the media and all the pundits who want to tie this administration to Russia, which, by the way, has been found false at every level. This president did nothing wrong. And then Flynn here, look, I'm so sick of Jim Comey and Captain America here. There's so many cracks in his shield, and he goes around, maybe he'll go point and do another tweet about trees, because he has so misled the American people about what it is to be a prosecutor, what it is to be an FBI agent. Because when you look at this, when you look at what's happening, people need to be concerned that here was a man who was in charge, who could destroy people's lives. And he said, let's use the chaos to find something we don't like about this president. And again, you're right. They did not charge him with colluding with Russia. They charged him with lying to the FBI, who came in, it seems to be now, under a false pretense to get something on him. This is just disturbing. When you talk about the FISA court reissuance, when you talk about the issue of how they were using, not turning over exculpatory evidence, every citizen in the United States right now could be concerned that at one point, when you had Comey and McCabe and Strzok and Page and all of them running it, that we had a rogue group that was out on their own to take down a candidate and then to take down a president. This has been very disturbing. And the more it's revealed, it's just sad for where we're at. But it's also important for us to not give up the fight for the FISA court. When we reauthorize it, it has to have changes to it. It cannot just be rubber stamped to continue to do what it's doing, because these investigations show that there was a lot of problems. And General Flynn this week, it'll be interesting to see what happens with this, because this is important stuff. This is things that are basic 101 for prosecutors. Yeah. And what Comey and Strzok and them did is just bad.
Yeah, it's just extraordinary. We'll see if this begins a domino effect, where we actually will see the cabal of individuals who tried to stage a coup, that they will face accountability and justice. Congressman, it's always a pleasure to see you. Thank you so much.
Great to be with you. Take care.
Congressman Doug Collins joining us there.